Congratulations, you won. Congratulations, you won.
Okay, here goes.
Damn, son, where'd you find this? A King Majora exclusive. You know what it is, sons. Ladies and gentlemen, what's up, people? It is King Majora here. Look, now, I'm going to discuss something that's been on my mind for a very long time. And I think it's the root of all of civilization's current first world problems. And I do think they are first world problems because we have running water, right? We can go to like a cheap dollar store and get some groceries, okay? They're not that bad. They won't kill you, and if you eat them in time, they're fine. They're just slightly old, okay? Now, I'm smoking a cigarette. So, this black pill dynamic and the sense of cultural and societal collapse is not because we're a degrading Roman Empire, okay? It's not the end of the world, even if aliens are being disclosed. And I think that's still a generational years process. I don't think we're ready for it yet anyway. We have to literally transition technologies, but I'm not going to talk about that today. Excuse me. You can go to any fucking YouTube channel and watch this and that, or you can watch my channel and get a basic synopsis. But we're going to talk about how the Normie invasion completely ruined the internet and thus society. You know, many people seem to forget that the internet was like a DARPANET, ARPANET, military intelligence, it was a service like that. Then it gets contracted to certain like allies and corporate interests elsewhere, and both Europeans and American endeavors create the modern internet as we begin to know it today. But it's like, consumer society is based on the internet now. Everything's interfacing on smart devices. And I'm not one of those who says they're good or bad. I can get into UN Agenda 2020 ID, and the rush for biometric security and protocols for this and that. And my strict fast opinion is it's not inherently bad, but the Davos types and certain interfaces, Microsoft was a gangstered industry. It's nuanced. There's no heroes. There's no villains. Bill Gates is a guy that's a guy. Epstein involved. Yes, this and that. But people don't understand nuances in society. Again, we're not talking about political science. The Normie invasion. I'm tangenting too much. The internet of the Wild West era, and I'm not just speaking of my era. Now, I must profess, I was born November 13th, 1995. I'm going through a Saturn return at this, recording session. So, my era, and I was a super intelligent kid using like these text-to-speech Microsoft SAMs and stuff like that, right? So, at a very young age, in fact, my dad got me on Newgrounds. It was an accident that I discovered Newgrounds when I was 6 years old in 2001, or 2002, sometime in between there. Me and my dad found a Flash game where you kill Osama bin Laden, and we wanted to play it again, and he found Newgrounds and just let me go. My dad was a pretty chill dad. I love my dad, so it's like, I'm playing Newgrounds games at 6 years old, and it brought me into this environment of Newgrounds. Before this, I was also looking into GeoCities and playing Diablo 2 online. So you gotta understand that even at that time, I'm using like trainers and hack mods because it's fun on Diablo 2 online. So I was a very intelligent kid at that time, learned it on my own, playing with computers from a very young age. It was something I grew up with, playing Diablo 2 all night and all day for weeks on end. In the summertime, and also going to my little pool in the little cornfields, like suburban, rural area that I lived in. One of those nice hybrid areas. It was a little grotto, if you wish. It's somewhat like a cul-de-sac. Anyway, so I grew up with this culture of the internet early on, Funny Junk E-Bombs World, and I want to give credit to the peoples before that, when it was code, when it was, accessing the terminal, and even those who still do Linux. But what I'm saying is this was a culture of people. Everybody talks about cult of Keck and meme magic and this and that and the modern Wojaks and the contemporary SpongeBob meme of the day. But what do we ever talk about Strawberry Clock or Skulka? We should have these memorialized. We still talk about Chris O'Neill, and he still goes to being Oni Plays and Zach Hadel with Smiling Friends, which is amazing. But we seem to forget the bedrock of cultural society now is dependent upon a legacy of people who do not function like normal society. It's either the highly intelligent chameleons or people who just happen to use the internet early on within the late 90s and early 2000s culture. And those, like I said earlier on, but what I'm saying is this culture of meme-based, in-your-face cathartic, I don't know, ironic humor, it was perfected around this era when you could share on this level. And outsiders to the culture, because everybody then was like, oh, I'm going to go pager, or I'm going to go text, and I'm going to go to the club, and I'm going to, my Real Slim Shady, my Limp Bizkit, my Britney Spears, and my Dixie Chicks, and we're going to worry about mosh, because we think what Eminem talks about is highly, nuanced and relevant. It's fucking retarded, like pop star nonsense. When you get into the nuance of political theory and the subcultures on the internet that defined a legacy in which, I don't want to make a word salad. What I'm saying is this culture of making the money, right? Bringing normie ass people with boomer book opinions, completely fed by the system, and sometimes getting dribbles of red pills through the algorithm of Instagram, or you get your edgy Redditor hybrid on X of its own flavor of Nat So's Duganist ideology. Alexander Dugan-based alt-right ideology. Never bring up, 51 documents by Lenny Brenner that exposes this whole dynamic between Zionists and the Third Reich. That would just destroy the narrative. If only the Fuhrer had known. The Fuhrer fucking known, and it's declassified in CIA documents that he went to fucking, Argentina, around that area somewhere, and he's fucking, the Pope and all this other shit. There's a documented lore, but, we don't tell people that. We don't publicize that in our owned media, our Jewish-owned media. And I can say that, and I can even get into the nuances of Judaism. I don't want to tangent about, all the different branches of Judaism, because I can get into political Zionism. And I don't want to tangent too far from the original subject. But the reason I tangent, and so often I do, is because they all interact in such a way, because now the internet is completely politicized. A fringe board that would have been on some decentralized part of the internet is now some sort of radical talking point that could cause some sort of terrorist attack, and it fuels a movement, and psyops are caused, and it's so blurred between the lines, you don't know what's a psyop and what's an actual tragedy of misinformation and black and white propaganda utilization. People seriously underestimate the power of black and white propaganda. But the reason I'm tangenting in these circles is because when you bring the culture of basically mirroring society, from the plebeians to the initiates to the neophytes to the magician of chaos to the ceremonial creep to the pedophile trying to be, so why do good girls like bad guys? These types, the influencer types, the streamer girls and OnlyFans, it created a culture that was foreign to what actually made the internet worthy of such a cause. It's like the God of War Ragnarok and God of War 2018. It's only good for being The Last of Us and Logan, the X-Men movie simulator, because it's Kratos. It's the same analogy. You have the original God of War and the God of War 3, with the climax of the internet being like early, just before the rise of, premium YouTube era even. Because at that point, you've got social commerce and other things of normies. It's the saturation of normies onto the fucking internet. and the internet gaining in such a fucking way that it becomes everyday life mirrored politics. And it's so fucking annoying because it destroyed the egos of everybody, making everybody self-absorbed narcissists or black-pilled losers on the internet, frying their brains and doom scrolling on a system that was never designed for them, but became so because of commercialization and money, and evolving people towards a grid of smart city living and UN Agenda 2030 and Rex and all these other things, combined with social programming that have to truthfully do with non-human intelligence that don't give a fuck about you or don't even want to advocate for you, which is unfortunate. Having to do with the revenge politics. I can explain my Skeltonic Judaism all you want, but the fact of the matter is we live in this rat race, consumerist compulsion to watch the blue screen of death, which is your smart device, and continuously rot your brain with doom scrolling and buy a merchandise from some sort of whacked out YouTuber with a stupid little character that moves into 2 or 3 frames and does the same pose as every other online character, and it's all a cringe archetype that we will look back on no different than Newgrounds and Strawberry Clock and the GeoCities, the beautiful GeoCities. Like, they look ancient relics of beauty now. Look at all the fucking websites. Do we even use websites anymore? It's all consolidated into basically no more than 18 websites are actively traversed by 98% of the fucking internet. And that includes, I would say, the Pirate Bay and Reddit and Pinterest and all the main, and Etsy and eBay and Amazon and Facebook and X. I'm saying that there's no more than 20 that we actively actually go to, but the internet's still there, people. I want to do an adventure. I want to look at old GeoCities. I want to look at old Newgrounds. I'm going to do I think it's something I should do. I should do a series on exploring the old internet. I was always, with my younger brother, 8Mo, when I was living at my mom's for a short time, just getting out of prison and jails and situations. But it's like, I'm like, I want to do a show where you react to the old internet I grew up with, just to bridge Gen Z, Gen Alpha, Zillennials, Millennials, and the other archetypes that were basically around my age that grew up with a certain portion of the internet that was still designed for the audience it was, thriving under, that made it so. So, it's the era of the game that's on the screen or TV or whatever you're watching me on. So, yeah, that's what I think about the normie invasion of the internet. I hope you enjoyed the little rambling I did, Be sure to like and subscribe wherever you are at. I think it's something that's important, I'm from the Cave EXE. It's my little platform to where all of my greatest work of my adult life, I'm basically putting on here to express some form of, I've explained the legacy of my meme magic of my 2014-2015 Stomestein project, a free speech, goofy avant-garde thing. It's designed to be like bad music is like making fun of and critiquing the culture of, modern society back at the time. It would have been 2014, so the contemporary artists who were relevant at the time, the Stomestein character is supposed to be a mainstream hip-hop artist that makes the retarded-ass songs you hear, and he's, considered one of the best. The critique of society and the internet that got me in trouble with law, and it's like over some bullshit with my dad's wife. So I don't mean the tangent at the end of the video, but I just wanted to tell you there's a lot of good shit on thecave.exe, my actual King Majora music, the old Fate of the Verse project I did with my other buddies, old podcasts, both funny, relevant, the Skeltonic reality. It's a GTA radio, like, talk show, in-universe style continuity, goofy little improv show I did, Misfits and Terminus, so lots of other good shit, and I got new shit coming up too, actual Let's Plays, and, of course, other things, so be sure to like and subscribe wherever you are at. I am out, King Majora. Damn, son! Damn, that's it, it's lit!